Folks, let me tell you something. The whole town of St. Petersburg was in a real bad way. I mean, everybody was crying. Their hearts were just broken. You see, the town's two favorite kids, Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher, were lost. They had gone on a picnic with their friends to McDougal's cave. But somewhere in that big, dark place, they took a wrong turn. Now, nobody could find them. The mothers in the town were just beside themselves with worry. Even the men, who tried to act all tough, had tears in their eyes. It was a sad, sad time for everyone. The search parties went out day and night. They went into that cave with lanterns and ropes, shouting Tom and Becky's names. But all they heard back was their own echoes. It was like the cave had just swallowed the children whole. For 3 long days and 3 long nights, the town waited. Hope was starting to run out. People started thinking the worst. They started planning a big funeral service at the church. The whole town gathered, dressed in black, ready to say goodbye to the children they thought they had lost forever. It was a real tragedy, you hear me? But hold on now. Just when everyone was at their lowest, just when the preacher was saying his saddest words, something amazing happened. The church doors creaked open. And who do you think was standing there? That's right, it was Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher. They looked tired. They were covered in dirt and their clothes were all torn up, but they were alive. The whole church just erupted. People were screaming and yelling and crying, but this time they were tears of pure joy. It was a miracle, I tell you, a straight-up miracle. The town went from mourning to celebrating in a heartbeat. The celebration was something else. It was like the 4th of July and Christmas all rolled into one. The bells in the church tower were ringing like crazy. People were hugging each other in the streets. Tom and Becky were the heroes of the hour. Everyone wanted to hear their story. How did they survive? How did they get out? Tom, being the showman he is, told them all about their adventure. He told them how he saved Becky and found a secret way out. The town couldn't have been prouder. They carried those kids around on their shoulders. It was a beautiful sight, a town united in happiness. Now, a couple of weeks went by. Tom was back to his old self, getting into all kinds of mischief. But something was bothering him. He was talking to his best friend, Huckleberry Finn, and he learned some big news. Judge Thatcher, Becky's dad, had done something to make sure no one ever got lost in that cave again. He had a giant iron door put on the entrance. He sealed that cave up tight. When Tom heard this, his face went as white as a ghost. He looked like he'd just seen the boogeyman himself. Huck asked him what was wrong, and Tom had something shocking to tell him. Tom grabbed Huck and pulled him aside. He whispered, "Huck, Injun Joe is in that cave." You see, while Tom and Becky were lost, Tom had seen Injun Joe hiding in one of the tunnels. The evil man was still in there when the judge sealed the door. Tom knew he had to tell someone, and he ran straight to Judge Thatcher's house. They got a whole group of men together and rushed back to the cave. They opened that big iron door, afraid of what they might find inside. And there he was, right by the entrance. Injun Joe was gone. He hadn't been able to get out. It was a grim discovery, but the town finally felt safe. With Injun Joe gone, Tom's mind started racing. He was thinking about something else that was hidden in that cave. The treasure, that big box of gold coins that Injun Joe and his partner had stolen. Tom and Huck had seen them hide it. At first, they thought Injun Joe had taken it to a place called Number 2. They had looked all over for it in an old tavern, but they never found it. Now, Tom had a brand new idea, a brilliant idea. He put all the pieces together in his clever mind and figured it all out. Tom explained his idea to Huck. "Huck," he said, "what if Number 2 wasn't a room number? What if it was a tunnel number inside the cave?" It all made sense. Tom remembered seeing a number painted on a rock near where he saw Injun Joe. The real treasure spot wasn't in the tavern at all. It was right there, in McDougal's cave, the whole time. Injun Joe had moved the treasure chest to his secret hideout, and now that Injun Joe was gone, the treasure was just sitting there, waiting for someone to come and get it. Tom looked at Huck, and his eyes were sparkling with excitement. They knew what they had to do. So, the very next day, Tom and Huck decided to go on a real treasure hunt. This wasn't a game anymore. This was the real deal. They packed up some supplies, they got some bags to carry the gold, some candles to light the way, and a whole lot of string to make sure they didn't get lost again. They didn't go to the main entrance with the big iron door. No, sir. Tom knew another way in. He led Huck to the secret exit he had found when he was lost with Becky. It was a small hole hidden behind some bushes on the side of a hill. They were going back into the darkness. Crawling into that cave again took some real courage, let me tell you. It was dark and spooky in there. The air was cold and damp. Their candles made long dancing shadows on the walls that looked like monsters. But Tom was determined. He followed the string line he had left before. He led Huck deeper and deeper into the maze of tunnels. They finally came to the spot where Tom had seen Injun Joe. They looked around and sure enough, they saw it. On a big rock, someone had drawn a cross with smoke from a candle. This was the sign. Underneath that cross, they saw a big flat rock. It looked like it didn't belong there. They started digging around it with their hands. It was hard work. They dug and they pushed and they pulled. Finally, the rock moved, and underneath it, they found a small cavern. It was like a secret room hidden in the cave. And in the middle of that room, what do you think they saw? A wooden chest. It was old and rotten, but it was the one. The treasure chest. Their hearts were beating so fast they thought they were going to jump right out of their chests. They broke open that old box with a crowbar they had brought. And inside, gold. Piles and piles of shiny, beautiful gold coins. It was more money than they had ever seen in their entire lives. They couldn't believe their eyes. They laughed and they shouted. They were rich. They filled up their bags with as much gold as they could carry. The bags were so heavy they could barely lift them. They struggled back through the tunnels, dragging their heavy treasure behind them. When they finally came out into the sunshine, blinking and covered in dirt, they were the richest boys in the whole state of Missouri. When Tom and Huck came back to town dragging those heavy bags, nobody knew what was going on. They went straight to a party being held by the widow Douglas, a kind lady who lived in a big house. Tom, always loving a big reveal, dumped all the gold out on the table for everyone to see. The whole room went silent. Then everyone went crazy. No one had ever seen so much money. They counted it all up, and it came to over $12,000. That was a fortune back in those days. Half of it was Tom's, and half of it was Huck's. This treasure changed everything. Tom Sawyer was already a hero, and now he was a rich hero. He had exciting plans for all the adventures he would go on. But for Huckleberry Finn, this was a much bigger deal. Huck had never had anything. He had no family. He slept in barrels and wore rags. He did whatever he wanted, sure, but he was all alone. Now, he was rich. He had more money than almost anyone in town. Suddenly, people started looking at him differently. He wasn't just Huck the vagabond anymore. He was Huckleberry Finn, the wealthy young man. The kind widow Douglas saw this as a great opportunity. She had always felt sorry for Huck. She invited him to come and live with her in her big, fancy house. She told him she would civilize him. That meant he would have a warm bed to sleep in every night. He would have clean clothes to wear and plenty of food to eat. He would have to go to school and to church. He would have to learn manners, like using a fork and a knife instead of just his hands. For Huck, who was used to being free as a bird, this sounded like a prison. At first, Huck hated it. The clean clothes felt stiff. The regular meals were boring. He missed sleeping outside under the stars. After 3 weeks, he couldn't take it anymore. He ran away and went back to his old rags and his favorite sleeping barrel. But Tom Sawyer found him. Tom told him that if he wanted to be in his new gang of robbers, he had to be respectable. He had to have a good social standing. Huck thought about it. He didn't want to be left out of the adventures. So, he made a choice. He agreed to go back to the widow Douglas and give being civilized another try, all for the sake of future adventures with his best friend.